So, Grandma having such strict parents, how did it feel the first time you met her parents? What was that like?
Well, her father was quite ill when I met Martha. I've seen him only about 2 or 3 times, but they, of course, was a little bit edgy about it, and her parents naturally were concerned, weren't they? They wanted to know. They said my mom and dad didn't own a home or anything, and they were a little bit cautious and concerned about whether she should marry me, but as time went on, why, they knew we were, in other words, that didn't make any difference. We were determined to get married anyhow. It wasn't against their will. We, in other words, she as much as knew it.
But they would not give us their, my father had passed away. I met Ray in April, and in June, my dad passed away, the 29th of June, and so he didn't get to see him much. But then my mother, I had 2 brothers older than I did, and she said we could not get married because we had to help support her. And that was why my 2 brothers, then I had a younger brother. But I was 20 years old when I met Ray. I was 19, and where I worked at LaSalle's, and I told my mother, I said, we're going to get married. I said, whether you give us your consent or not. And I said, I don't care if Ray's parents don't have a home, but I said they show the love in that there. And I says, I know him and I think he's going to be good to me. And I went to my minister and I asked him, I said, because I wanted to be married in the church that I was baptized and confirmed. And I said, can you talk to my parents so she'll give me the consent? He looked at me, he was a German pastor, and he says, Martha, Martha, he'd always say. He says, if you can't talk to your mother, she surely will not listen to me. And I says, well, I says, and that's what we'll have to do. I said, we'll have to elope and go to Bowling Green. And he said, I could not change your mother's. He said, no matter how much I tried, would try, he said. He says, the only thing I give you my blessings. And he says, you always were good. And he says, what religion is he? And I says, well, his mother is Lutheran, his dad is a Methodist. I said, right at the present time, he's going to a Lutheran church. He says, as long as you're satisfied and you're happy, go to it. And he says, as I said, I'll give you my blessing. So then we went to Bowling Green, got married in the parlor of a Lutheran church.
By yourselves then, or were there
No, we went
brothers
with,
and sisters?
no, we went with a friend of Ray's. He was a lifelong friend of yours, Harold and B. Jacob. Got married at the same minister, Reverend Smith. And so they knew about it, and they were our sponsors. And we went there, and then we come home, and Ray's mother, Grandma Furry, had a big dinner for us and everything. And I went home then around after we had our dinner, and I went home to tell my mother that we were married. And she says, well, you made your bed, now you lie in it. And that was was it. And I didn't go back home for quite a while. And when I was pregnant, and then I went home, my sister says, you should go home and see your mother. And I says, well, I will do that. And I did. And she opened us with welcome arms as though nothing had happened. And from the
over there for dinner every other Sunday or so.
yeah, and every Thursday I had to come home every Thursday and spend the whole day with her and Bonnie, and she just held Bonnie and did everything. And while I was pregnant, she made me eat this and made me eat that, different foods and things like that. So that's why I said I felt that she wanted to show the love that she had for us, but it was just their way of not able to do it. And you'll find people are that way. There's a lot of people that cannot show their love or even say I love you or anything like that. It was probably the way she was raised and things like that. And it's a hard thing. And I've heard other families say the same things, you know. So, but like I say, I had a good life. I couldn't say that I was deprived of anything.
Were you nervous at meeting Grandpa's parents for the first time? How was that?
No, the first time I seen him, no, I wasn't nervous. He says, I want you to meet my parents. And we just seemed to know each other and feel love towards each other. And then he had two younger sisters, Mary and Frances. And they were, Frances I think was 8 or 10 years old, and Mary was quite young. I think she was about maybe in the 1st or 2nd grade of school. And I just felt that I had a family again, you know. And they were always good. I couldn't ask for better people and sisters. And they were more like sisters and sister-in-laws to me. And they are to this day, yeah. So, but like I say, it's you yourself that have to show that love and that it's always there and not be afraid of it, you know. And that's another thing. My parents, like I say, whether they couldn't do it, put their arms around you or something. When we were little, my mother nursed each and every one of us, and so there had to be some love there, you know, to do, you know. So, but that's, like I say, all of our lives are different. Of course, she left her parents. She was only 18 years old when she brought my cousin. She traveled from Germany to the United States. So that alone probably scared her half to death. And my cousin was only 3 years old when she brought her across.
Where in Germany? Do you know where in Germany they were from?
She was in Berlin. And my dad was born near what they call Baden-Baden now. And it was near Frankfurt, you know. But that's why I say my dad was lovable.
They met after they come over here.
Oh, yes. She was 18. She didn't get married until she was 25. But they, my dad worked hard, like I say, and my mother had worked hard too, because didn't have things, you know, that they had, like, said, wash machines, everything had to be scrubbed by hand. But we had our life there. It was very religious. We had to go to church and practice what we preached. And yet, there was a difference there, you know.
And now you're in Florida and enjoying your home down there and all your friends.
We're enjoying our home, but we miss our family.
Mm-hmm. But you're still able to come up here once a year or so. And
Right, sometimes twice a year on occasion, but yeah, we live down there, but home is really up here as far in our own minds, but we're living down there because of our health's sake. In other words, after you become a certain age and so forth, if the doctor tells you you would feel better and do better health-wise in another state, if you had to go to Arizona, you'd go there if you wanted to stay healthy. And so that's the reason we went to Florida, because of doctor's advice for both of us, in other words.
More so for you, we had made the
And
drastic
more so
change.
for myself, having the heart condition I've had. But
Our heart is here.
naturally.
okay. Was there anything else you want to talk about, or anything else you want to say? Any advice you would give to Meredith when she gets older, or
Well,
anybody that would help her have as healthy and happy of a life as you've had?
well, that's what only thing, like I say, in other words, as parents, you would do the same, in other words.
Show her the love, and that you're always there for her.
And if you promise her something, promise her something.
Never go back on your promise. Never.
If you say no, mean no. If you say yes, yes. Like I say it. And I would say this, that through my lifetime, like my father once said, in other words, you look back, and at the time, as a child, you were being corrected. At that time, you are being corrected as a child. You got to realize that it's for your own good and benefit that would last all throughout your whole life, because your parents have lived before you, and they've experienced different occasions and times and difficulties and good times, and advice from your parents means a very lot to you. When you grow older, you look back and you realize why your parents corrected you and told you and taught you right from wrong, and to respect other people and to try to do good while you're on this earth. When you do good, why, there's some kind of a feeling. In other words, money cannot buy love. Things can't buy love. In other words, that comes from the heart. That's about all I'd have to say. In other words, as far as to Meredith, as she grows up, down, and out through the years, right? To choose her friends, like we stated before, as she gets out into the world, and she's on her own at times, and during school and college, and the life that she should choose her friends carefully and be a leader. Don't be a sheep. That's how we taught our children too. Don't be a sheep.
A follower.
A follower. Be a leader. Or use your own thoughts and heads now. Do I want to do the same as they're doing? Or will that be good for me or bad for me? As a child, you've got to make up your mind too at that time. You've got to. The Lord give you a brain, you got to use it. That's about all I can say.
You, Grandma? Same thing?
Yeah, like I say, the attention that you have and the love that you have for your wife and your child, and give them all the attention that you possibly can. And it's always togetherness. Never say, I can do it alone, because you can never do it alone. And especially if you have a partner, you gotta share in everything. And always talk it over. You'll have little squabbles and maybe not see
Misunderstandings.
yeah, just little things, but be sure, don't go to your parents, don't go to friends or anything else. Talk together. That's the way Grandpa and I did. We had any feelings, and I would tell him how I felt, and he would tell me how he felt. A lot of times, when you get mad, you say things that you don't mean to say. But always ask for forgiveness. Always say, I'm sorry. Never go to bed mad.
We never did. No.
Yeah.
Well, we never ever was mad at each other. We just
No.
said, it's normal.
Little
to have
misunderstandings, and when you have children sometimes he'd correct the children, like Bonnie and your mother and our son Raymond, Buddy, and wouldn't say in front of the children. I'd get up and I'd cry. And I thought he was too harsh. You know what I mean? He wasn't harsh. It was that he just wanted them to understand, and then we talk about it. But we'd never, now when he corrected, that's one thing sometimes some parents do. The child will play both parents. And they'll go to one parent and they'll say, well, Mommy said I could go, but she said I had to ask you first. Or they'll say, Daddy said I can go. Never take sides. Both work together. I think that's the biggest mistake that anybody can do, is making parents go against each other. Say, well, now this is what Daddy and I both want you to do. And I think we've always did that.
Had to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, a child, like they say, the environment for a child too is, well, maybe we're getting off this main subject that you asked, the question you asked, but a child will become as the environment it's raised in. In other words, if it's raised in a violent or quarrelsome type of a family, it sort of adopts that itself. In other words, so the parents' behavior from a baby on up for a child is a lot of the time the child will form its opinion how it's going to be too. In other words, it thinks that's the correct way it should be. In other words, a child should never be subjected to a lot of quarreling and arguing and things like that. It's not good. I don't know.
No, like I say, just don't let a child get one parent quarreling another, because that's easily done. We've seen that done. We've seen that done through our friends and their family and their parents, and it's not good. Like I say, just teach your child that if Mommy says this, she says you can't do it, then I'm with Mommy, because she's with you all the time, and that's the way it should be done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you very much.
You should.
You're
welcome.
I love you, Grandma, and I love you, Grandpa.
And we love you. And we think that I think that your mother is, we passed on to your mother some of those traits. Like you say, at times you probably thought, well, parents are kind of tough on you, but as you get older, you're gonna look back and you'll see that your mother and dad has tried to do the best for you, all of your children too.
I think Ron has learned that because he's always been respectful and things like that, and he knows he's had good parents. And I think that comes on to a child when you're a child. You know you had it, and your mother and dad showed you all the love. And I think you'll do the same to your child. And you got a wonderful wife, and I think you both work.
That's one thing I think thank the Lord for, that I met Martha and married Martha, because she was really a helpmate. In other words, we both worked together in everything. Not only one or two things, but all the way through our life. We cooperated.
We were for each other. We loved each
Yeah.
other.
Sure did.
Okay. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
the Lord for giving us,
Each
I
other.
thank the Lord for giving me my wife.
Okay, well, good night.
Good night.